Gray. He's with us today, courtesy of South Bay Families Connected. He's in the midst of an 11-school vaping prevention tour. Alex was raised here in South Bay. He's a graduate of Peninsula High School, where he's Athlete of the Year. He's been a professional surfer for more than 20 years. One of the highlights of any surfer's career is being on the cover of magazines, and Alex has been on the cover of Surfing, Trans World Surf, Tracks, Surf Europe, and the Bible of Surfing, Surfer magazine 4 times. In addition, he started and produced GoPro's highest viewed YouTube show called Out to Sea. He's also founded a therapy group for people who have lost siblings called A-Grade Therapy. He's also a really good follow on Instagram. Please give a warm charter welcome to Mr. Alex Gray.
Hello, Torrance Tartars. How are you? I see it's game day. Good luck tonight. So thank you guys very much for having me. I was here last week. This is my second speech to 11th and 12th grade. I found a very fun fact that my grandma, Dorothy Gray, who we called Nana Gray, graduated from this very high school in 1948. She deserves that. So my roots go very far back with Torrance, and it took me all of 5 minutes to drive to your school. This is home for me. I did graduate from Peninsula High School, but we'll work through that. We'll work through that. Maybe by the end we'll all be friends. I think we will. But I'll tell you what did happen is my life changed at 10 years old at Torrance Beach, to bring it back to this city. During that time, I was playing every sport: football, baseball, basketball, soccer, skateboarding. Yeah, there we go. And my brother went to junior lifeguards down in Torrance Beach, and his instructor taught him how to surf during one of their sessions. And me being a younger sibling, maybe some of you can relate to this, I was following everything he did, but I just wanted to beat him at everything he was doing. I had failed at everything up until that point. So I said, maybe this surf thing will be it. I asked my dad, who knew nothing about surfing. He's a Superior Court judge at Torrance Courthouse for 23 years, and said, Mr. Gray, Judge Gray, could you please push me into a wave? And he said, sure, son, let's do it. So we took this crappy foam board down to Torrance Beach, the world's best, worst wave. And I got into one, and I stood up for all of 1 second, I think it was. And that 1 second, unbeknownst to me, would change my life forever. After that wave and that day, I told myself that I wanted to be a professional surfer, that feeling was the best thing that I had ever felt, and how do I do this every day for the rest of my life? So my parents, being as loving and supportive as they were, allowed their crazy child with this idea that most parents were like, you're gonna support him doing that? And they did. And so I joined an amateur California tour, and we started doing contests every single weekend, driving from San Diego to Santa Cruz. 2 years later, at 12 years old, I received my first sponsorships by brands named Volcom and Body Glove, right on, who also gave me my first paycheck. And looking back at my life, that is crazy. When I was given the opportunity to represent corporate brands who began funding my 10-year-old dream, I began to take it very seriously, and I started sacrificing what would be a normal teenage life. I wasn't able to go to the weekend parties, I missed prom, I missed everything. I know. Maybe I can come to yours. I'll talk to your principal about that. I'll bring my mom. My mom will be my date. She's here today. But within all of this, I learned that if I was going to follow a professional surf career, I was going to live a much different life than most high school students. And I wanted it more than anything. It was what my entire focus on life really was addressed. Although my parents did make a rule that I could not surf until my homework was done, so surfing was done before and after school. And all I really wanted to do was graduate so I could get on the world tour and possibly become a world champion. As I went through high school, I gained more sponsors like Red Bull, and my childhood dream was unfolding before my eyes to move into and actually start accomplishing some of those crazy goals that little 10-year-old at Torrance Beach really wanted more than anything. During that time, my brother, when I was a senior in high school, I was 17 years old, he came to our family in our home and sat us down with a wild card. Unexpectedly, during this conversation, my brother brought up that he had been using drugs secretly for a few months. And the journey of his drug use had taken him to a place that he feared for the safety of his life. He had gotten to a point where he had lost control of, I think, what he believed was possibly going to be something that could end his life. And me and my mom and my dad, we sat there and looked at him and just said, "What do you need? We love you so much. How do we fix this?" And we as a family, together with Chris, helped him through the path of recovery. And voluntarily, he went to a detox. He went to a sober living home and went through the program that an addict is given if they want it. And Chris wanted to undo the trap that he had fallen into. On one of my favorite nights of my high school journey, I was the captain of the surf team. That year as a senior, we had our last kind of celebration, and it was a farewell as most people were going to college. I was not going to college. I was moving on to travel to 17 to 20 countries a year and pursue my professional career as a surfer. When we ended that night, we got a phone call that my brother was in an ambulance headed to, I would think it was Torrance Memorial, and his heart had stopped. And from what they had found, it was due to an overdose of drugs. So my parents went to the hospital. I sat at home next to the phone and awaited what would be a phone call that was going to go one of two ways. I prayed it was one way. It didn't go the way that I hoped. My brother died that night. Here, in this amazing community. This is my brother, Chris. This is his senior portrait from Peninsula High School. Maybe you can help me out here and just set that down there. Can you grab this? I haven't done this on this tour yet, but I think that photo explains a lot. Because when Chris died, as you can see, he was a good-looking, good person. That the stigma that I grew up with was that bad people died from something like this. Chris was a good person. For me, he was the best brother I could have ever imagined. For my parents, the best son. He was a good friend. He was everything. And he died. And at 17 years old, if I can correctly put things into words, when his life ended, so did mine. I never in a million years could have expected the darkness, the weight. I don't know what other words go along there, but I didn't go to school for 2 weeks. I basically didn't get out of bed or leave home for 2 weeks. And during that time, I didn't know what the word was, but let's title it as depression. Let's call it severe depression. And I didn't know the other word at the time, but anxiety was there with it, and it was a vicious cycle that repeated itself all day, every day. And I had no idea what to do. I had no idea how to deal with it. And on top of it, I had to face my parents every day and see what they were going through as well. And it was just a world of pain. That's all it was every day. It was a hard lesson to learn that we're not invincible, because as a teenager, I was one of those people that thought could get away with everything. And when Chris died of a drug overdose, I realized that there are things much bigger and much stronger than anything I could have ever imagined. It was a really hard lesson for me to learn the consequences of choice. Knowing that Chris ultimately made the decision to use one more time. It took a few years to accept that. There was a lot of woulda, coulda, shoulda. There was a lot of self-blame of what did I not do, right? And then it was the, is he actually gone? It was never ending. My parents, being the awesome people that they were, understood that we needed to break this routine and try to find some form of normal lifestyle again. I had tried to go surfing at Torrance, where my brother and I went almost every day, and I thought it was going to bring that big smile and that happiness back, and it drove me deeper into the darkness because it was the reality that Chris was gone. And that the reason that I really loved doing this was that I got to do it with him. And so as I went through these little moments of reality punches, when my parents got us out of the house and took me back to one of those contests that I was currently rated #1 in the nation, I didn't want to return to it. I didn't know if I was ever going to honestly surf again. I put a jersey on and I was sitting at the high tide line about to paddle out for a heat that Chris would be sitting next to me. I mean, he came to every event. He was the biggest supporter ever. In between all of the beatdowns, which is a good sibling relationship, my brother was a really good brother. And I looked over where he physically wasn't anymore, and I realized that I was going to have to make the biggest choice of my life. I was either going to allow this moment to affect me and take me into probably the worst place imaginable, or I could take the gift and his spirit and acceptance and use it to move forward and honor him as a thank you for everything that he was and will always be for me. And that choice is the best thing I've ever done. I would go on to today having a 22-year surf career, achieving accolades and trophies and titles and surf magazine covers and surf video parts, all of the things him and I dreamt about as kids. And I don't think there's ever been an interview that it doesn't mention Chris's name, because I wear his heart on my sleeve. I'm wearing his necklace today. There's not a day that goes by that I don't thank him and have gratitude for his 20 years of time I got to spend with him. So, we get into the elephant in the room. When I first started doing these speeches, it was, I think, 4 months after my brother passed away, and I needed to sit in front of other 17-year-olds and explain to them that bad things happen to good people. Remind people that Chris was an awesome person, because there was a lot of judgment on our family, a lot of blame, a lot of shame, a lot of mean things. As if we weren't going through enough already, the whispers that we were catching downwind were terrible. And I wanted to remind people that we are not invincible, but even more so that people make mistakes. People have accidents, and that there are consequences to the point that they could take your life. Never in a million years did I think Chris would be dead and I would be standing in front of you guys today. But it's important to me. It's important to me because it's fuel for my life to take the correct journey. You know, during that moment where I was going to go to the darkness, I realized that if I started using drugs, I most likely was going to fall right into it because I come from an addictive gene in my family. We have a massive alcoholism on my dad's side, and there is a thing that within certain families, genetically, you are more susceptible to being addicted than somebody else. When Chris passed away from his heroin overdose, opioids were a shock. They were really it's almost a mystery. 15 years later today, the opioid epidemic is the #1 killer of accidental death in America. In 2017, 50,000 people died from what my brother died from. What scares me today, and we're going to bring up why I'm really here, is vaping. And since I've lived in this world of vaping, I want all of us together on the count of 3. We're gonna say vaping. Can you guys do that with me? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Vaping will most likely kill somebody in this room. If you want to wrap around that statement. Vaping has been marketed to you guys as a harmless device. It's been marketed to you guys as a substitute for something that is healthier than cigarettes. When I first started this tour 2 weeks ago, the numbers have doubled. There was 18 deaths, now there's 34 in 2 weeks. I'm not very good at math, and I didn't even want to go there, but we can imagine what that number means if it's doubling in 2 weeks. What's going to happen in a year? What's going to happen in 15 years? Other than the deaths, there's been 1,500 hospitalized lung injuries from this harmless device. Now, our beloved Nana Gray, that you gave a round of applause for, she died from throat cancer from smoking. I lost 4 of my family members to cigarettes. Cigarettes were romanticized in the 60s. They're in every movie. Everybody was smoking cigarettes until everybody started dying. We are now in a recycled issue. Vaping is not harmless. It is not something new. It is not something better. There are just people out there that are very good at marketing, and they think that you guys are foolish enough to fall for it, right? I mean, to the point that they're flavoring them like cotton candy. Are you kidding me? You guys are smarter than all of this. I recently just saw a vape. It looked like an iPhone cell phone. They're just taking what is normal reality to you guys and packing in something that will harm you forever, possibly kill you, or just take you somewhere you honestly wish you never went. Prevention within addiction is just a simple choice, right? It's looking at something that hopefully now you understand. Because I don't think if you guys knew this stuff that you'd do it. Why would you? You have so much ahead of you right now. You are so young. The world's at your fingertips. And you're going to start using something that is going to take everything you want and more and take you completely away from it? No way. No way. My brother didn't want to die. We believe that. I think it's been a big process of our acceptance. He made an accidental choice that we so wish we could have back, but we cannot. So I stand in front of you today for you to understand the effects of somebody who has had to deal with the issue of addiction. Addiction is quite simple. The rarest form, somebody becomes addicted to something, and miraculously, they stop using. Without any help, with whatever, somehow they just stop using. Here's how it usually goes. You accidentally get into something, you really like it, you become addicted to it, and it takes over your entire life. You may be a person of social status that has a great life, a great job, relationship, household, so you do it in secret. You have to live a lie the rest of your life because you know the consequences when all of these people in your life finds out about your dirty little secret. Living a lie for the rest of your life is a horrible, horrible way to go through life, right? There are people, and I sat in a parent-teacher conference last night, and it's something that was brought up in me and our family. We wonder, why was it Chris? Tons of addicts out there. Tons of addicts out there who live life and do not die. How? There's so many unanswerable questions. But drugs don't choose. These things happen. So if you're one of those people that goes through life living a lie, You might get further into substance abuse where you really get into even heavier drugs. You end up on the streets. You typically end up in and out of jail for the rest of your life. And then we get to the point, which is why it's so important for me to stand in front of you, there's a chance that you end up dying. That's the vicious cycle of addiction, right? But we can prevent this because this isn't a part of life. This is a choice. You choose to go down that route. So if you can choose to go down that route, why don't we choose to go away from that? Why don't we choose to finally start having conversations and talking? We need to get into what a real friendship is. When I was a teenager, I had no idea what that meant. I was simply following what everybody else was doing because that's what felt right. And to be honest, I felt super awkward, typically at parties. I felt awkward at school, but I just wanted to be part of the group that I thought I was supposed to be. When Chris died, about 75% of my friends never came by. They never came to the house. They never brought it up. And that was a really hard lesson for me to learn. Where were they? I needed help. I needed help because I was obviously having self-harm. I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't being me. And then there were these random people that I would have never imagined in a million years. And honestly, there was one person in particular that I've apologized to that I wasn't very nice to. He showed up at the door. That was a crazy lesson of understanding that you do not need to have all the friends in the world, but you need to have some for these unexpected moments of life. Because I'm not the only person in the room that is going to go through something like this. Do you have a team around you that when life hits, the thing that you least expect, that you can fall back upon? Is it a friend that when you talk to them, you can confide in them vulnerably anything? And will that friend in return sit and listen to you and keep it within you guys as a friendship? Right? Because vulnerability, the biggest fear of us exposing ourselves is what's going to happen after. What is that person going to do with what I told them? Who are they going to tell? Who are they going to tell? And what damage is going to be done? So that's why I say pick a small group of friends, because not everybody deserves all of you. A few people do. You know, we deserve to give everybody compassion, but a few people deserve the true you, and that's friendship. You have your parents. I'll be honest there, at times it's very hard to talk to my parents about everything. You have professional help, you have counselors here at school. You have therapists to look into. All of your faculty here, as much as they want to see you do well and excel in all of the opportunities within school, what's most important to them is your health. And I know for a fact you could speak to any one of these people and they will willingly help you if it is under the circumstance that you are afraid of the safety of your life or any of these subjects that I've talked about. Because we got a long road ahead of us. And when I was in high school, I thought this was it. For the 12th graders that are in here, you guys are about to jump into the big, big world. And then it's all up to you. That's a crazy place. If speaking and being vulnerable and talking isn't your thing, I love writing. Journaling is a personal thing that you can do. And really what I'm hitting on here is getting the chaotic thoughts out of your head, the anxiety, the depression, the stress, the pressure. Everybody has it. Every single person, including me in this room, has emotions. And they're all entitled the same thing. Some people talk about it, most don't. Journaling, you can get out of your head, you can write it down. If you want, throw it away, it's gone. Or do you have the integrity to go back and face yourself? And go back and read what was going on that day that spun you to that place. And start beginning to understand your thought pattern, right? Because success was never built by following other people. Successful people were individuals that began to face themselves and work through what were those moments of adversity. The hardest thing about being a human, and it's actually messed up in my opinion, it's not the good moments of life that define us, it's how we react to the worst moments of our life. Are we strong enough, courageous enough to face that time and do it in a healthy manner with an outlet like a passion? How lucky did I get as a 10-year-old boy that would have a 22 career from surfing, but it's not even that. I have to surf every single day because my mind is so nuts. If you want to talk about extreme, I have this all. And there are days that I am paralyzed and I cannot find the answer. So I go surf. I go and let Mother Nature be my healer. It's the only place in the world where I've found mental clarity that I can literally turn my brain off. What is that for you? For me, surfing is what makes my heart sing. All of those places in the video, you will never see me happier in life than on a surfboard during a surf session. That's where my happiness comes from. I am now working as an adult to find other ways because you can't just have one thing in life that does it all. But it also makes me realize I'm an addict. I am just as prone to addiction as my brother. But I put it into my passion. And when Chris died, I realized that I am one of those people that if I try something, I am most likely not going to stop. But I wasn't going to give up, and I wasn't going to let him down, and I put everything into surfing. And I never gave up. And I can tell you right now that hard work will always outdo natural talent. If you want something more than anything in the world, and let's call it a goal. I know goals can tend to be far away, but if you feel in your heart that you can accomplish that, that's when we're unstoppable. That's when we as a human reach our potential. And you guys at your age have the ability to begin that right now if you haven't already started. If I could do it, you can do it. And I want all of you to explore that. Explore being an individual because you guys are already having a tough time because of social media and this massive influx of information that I don't think our brains were ever supposed to even process. How you guys are doing this, I don't know. I applaud you that are doing okay with it because it freaks me out. It freaks me out that every day I have to post something showing the world that I'm perfect, showing the world that today's a good day. I used to be that person. I have 85,000 followers, and I had days where I felt pressured to post something to remind everybody who I was. To remind everybody who I was. Why do I have to tell people who I am? You guys, you don't ever have to prove anything to anyone. If you're having a bad day, you're having a bad day. That's fine. If you feel like you're not okay, it's okay to not be okay. I'm not okay. You're not okay. Nobody's okay. It's life. That's okay. And there's going to be the good and there's going to be the bad. But please don't put pressure on yourself that you have to be somebody else that you don't think is even you. I'd really like to pressure you guys to start looking inward and finding out who you are and what you want to do with your life. We can sit and follow people all we want, but it is very rare that what somebody else is doing, which is making them successful, is going to be the exact same thing that works for you. Scariest thing I ever did was face myself. But every time that I do, and I'm down in that moment, it gets easier for the next time. Because adversity, challenges, unexpected losses, they go all life long. And if you don't do it now, the next time it comes up, it's twice as hard. When we bury our emotions or run away from them, which I did for many years, they come out at the worst times in life. Sometimes they come out in front of people that you never meant. I've lost friendships, 100% lost friendships because I didn't do my self-homework. And because I didn't address that one day, that one emotion, I brought it out on somebody else. Hurting somebody else because you're not doing your own homework, I think is a very low form of being a human. I think about bullying. I think about cyberbullying. There are people out there, and I've witnessed it personally, you could be doing the most important, best thing that has ever felt great to you, and there will always be someone there to put you down. There are people out there that are so insecure and unhappy with themselves and unwilling to face themselves that they aren't going to allow you to be happy, because misery loves company. And he or she is going to bring you right down with you. If we talk about addiction, drug dealers, great example. Great example. All of this is avoidable, but it takes work. There is no such thing as a quick fix. We as humans, nothing out there, no pill, no Instagram post, you name it, will instantly fix the problem that you have right now. But you can chip away at it. And you guys are capable of anything. If any of you have self-doubt, a lack of self-confidence, a lack of self-esteem, it's okay. It comes and goes, and on those days that you're having those moments, pick yourself up. Take a deep breath and just go, I am not alone. This is all a part of life, and today is just that day, and tomorrow might be that much better. You guys need to be the change of what I'm fearing the most. Is this going to be a vaping epidemic that you'll be standing here going, my grandpa died from vaping? I really hope not. You guys, and honestly only you guys, can change and break this whole thing. I am happy to stand up here in front of you with my armor off, vulnerably divulging the darkest, scariest, but also things that made me successful to a group of teenage strangers. Because I realize the severity of choices, but I also realize the importance of believing in yourself. And I want all of you guys to focus on the believing in yourself. Surround yourself with good people, uplifting people. Right? Thank you. We cannot do this on our own. We have to help each other. And as I get towards the end of this speech, let's remind ourselves to have compassion for those that are hurting. Because there are people out there that it's gotten to the point that we have now a new onslaught of teenage suicide. And that is the scariest part of this whole thing. You guys deserve happiness. You deserve to have a fulfilled life of anything you've wanted and more. Do it. Fear of failure is probably one of our biggest downfalls. Pick something and go fail at it 99% of the time. And then that 1% that works, hello. Your whole life is now set up. Nobody who became successful did it just happen. They failed time and time and time again. Let go of your ego and dive into it. Explore every aspect of what you want, what makes you happy. And have fun, because life is short and it is fragile in the case of my brother and so many more that are going through issues right now. So thank you guys very much for having me.
So one thing else, this presentation is brought to us by Southway Families Connected. They got a wonderful website with information about vaping, mental health, and most importantly, the resources to help manage stress and anxiety. Let's give Alex another huge round of applause.